Year 3 and welcome back to your first day of your shared write. So we are going to be doing some of our shared write at home and we're going to be doing some of the shared write when we're all back together in class, which isn't too long now. So before we get started, make sure that you have everything to hand, whether that's your worksheets printed from the home learning document or a pen, pencil and piece of paper is all that you need. So press pause if you need some time. Otherwise, I'm going to show you your do now. So your do now is to practice writing questions, which is going to come in very handy for today's lesson. So what I want you to do is if you have the worksheet printed out, then you can just write the correct word to complete the question. If you don't, all you need to do is write 1 to 9 like you would in a spelling test, and then just write which word you would choose to complete the question. So press pause now and press play when you're ready for me to reveal the answers. Okay, so the answers are as follows. Number 1, why do you like to go to the beach? Number 2, can you bring me a napkin, please? Number 3, when is it time for dinner yet? Or you could have just had is. Number 4, where did you put the dog's leash? Number 5, should she bring her swimsuit? Number 6, what is your favourite colour? Number 7, who is your teacher? Number 8, do you want to come to my house today? And lastly, number 9, when is your soccer game? So well done for completing those questions. And the reason I chose that for your do now is because today we're going to be looking at the first section of our Innovate-X. So we're going to be changing the teacher-taming tonic into a different type of medicine. And to do that, we need to first use rhetorical questions to engage the reader. So we are going to be innovating our model text from a teacher-taming tonic to a medicine or a tonic or a pill which helps farmers to increase the size or height of their animals. Now, the reason we have chosen that is because, as you will be familiar with from the story of George's Marvellous Medicine, his medicine has quite the effect on different animals. So we thought that we would take that one step further and design a medicine that might help farmers who are in need. So let's have a quick recap. Whenever you see this little fella in the corner of my screen, that's Speedy Gonzales, that's because we are going to have a rapid recap of our previous learning. So remember, rhetorical questions don't need an answer. The reason we use them is to get people thinking. So examples of this could be, what on earth is going on? Are you kidding me? Are you being serious? None of those really need an answer back. You're almost being a little bit sarcastic. You want the person to be thinking in response. Now, if we are selling medicine to someone who needs it, we need to think about the kind of emotions we want them to feel at the very start of our advert. We really want to lure them in and get them reading. So if this is a farmer in need, he wants his animals to grow bigger or taller, then at the moment, this is something that isn't happening for him. So perhaps he's feeling desperate, he's out of options. Maybe he's feeling frustrated and fed up. Maybe he's feeling helpless, like there's nothing he can do. Maybe he's feeling a bit sad that he's not doing very well at his job. And at the end of the advert, by the time we've convinced them, we want them to have a lot of faith in our product. We want them to feel excited, optimistic, like things are going to change for the better, relieved that finally they found a solution to their problems, and above all, happy because our product is going to have a positive effect on their life. Now, we can have a brainstorm a bit later about why this medicine is a good thing. But first of all, I want you to have a read through of the model text, which is the teacher-taming tonic, and I want you to think about what you notice about the rhetorical questions and the language I have underlined. Do you have a horrid, irritating teacher? Are they making your school life a complete misery? And then I've also underlined his unbearable teacher. Force him. Until one day, George had enough. What do you notice about that phrasing there? Why have they chosen that language? Take a moment now, whether you're in community classroom or at home, to just have a little think, maybe a discussion with those around you if you're not alone, about why those particular phrases have been used. Okay, so hopefully you noticed that there were lots of very strong adjectives used there. Horrid, irritating, complete misery, unbearable teacher. Really using very emotive language there, very powerful language that gets the reader sympathizing with our advert. So reading this, we immediately, I hope, feel sorry for George that he's got such a terrible time of it. And we really feel that because of the powerful words that we have used. So keep that in mind for when we begin to write our first section for our new farmer medicine. So, like I said, today we are going to be changing the first paragraph in our persuasive advert. So I've broken down the first section and then I had to think about how this is going to change in our Innovate. So what do we need to write? Firstly, of course, we have to introduce the problem the customer has. Otherwise, how are they going to know what we're advertising? There's no point advertising something that people don't need. So what's the problem this customer has? My customer is the farmer. The farmer wants his animals to grow bigger. So clearly the problem will be that his animals aren't doing this. Maybe his animals are really small. Maybe they're really short. Maybe they're not providing enough food or doing their job very well because of their short size and stature. So what should we include? Well, definitely emotive language to appeal to the reader, using those really strong adjectives, really powerful vocabulary to show just how fed up and desperate and in need our customer is. So we need to think of how fed up and desperate our farmer is. And also we're going to, of course, use our rhetorical question to hook him in, ask him if he's in need, ask him how he's been feeling to get him thinking and get him reading the rest of our advert. So what are we going to change? Well, we know that we're going to change the customer from being a child who wants to be very cheeky and teach his teacher a lesson to a very poor farmer who needs a lot of help. And what's our product? Well, our product obviously is no longer going to be the teacher taming tonic. It's going to be a pill or medicine that makes farm animals big. So this is where our creative juices are going to get flowing. You can have a think now about what you are going to name your product and what it's going to do. So pause now if you want to take some time to write a few notes for yourself. Press play when you're ready for me to show you your box up for today. Okay, I think I've skipped the box up. No, it's coming. So firstly, we are going to use rhetorical questions to engage the reader. So in the original text of the Teacher Taming Tonic, we had, do you have a horrible, irritating teacher? Are they making your school life a complete misery? So I had to think about what kind of rhetorical question starters we could use to ask the reader. So we're trying to talk to farmers. So I had to think, and you can use one of these or you can choose one of your own. Are your animals? Do your farmyard friends? Are you having trouble? All of those great rhetorical question starters, and I know that you guys will have loads remembered from last week as well. So in your box up, and if you don't have a box up, absolutely fine, you can just write a few notes on a piece of paper. What rhetorical question are you going to use to engage the reader? So I might go for, are you a farmer? And I might try and say or show that this farmer is someone who's in need. Are you a farmer at the end of your tether? That means just absolutely had enough. They are at breaking point. And I know rhetorical questions need what at the end? Well done, a question mark. And I need to use emotive language to show the person is in distress. So what can I say? I might use another question here. Are you a farmer at the end of your tether? End of your tether is also, and I'm just going to underline this because I think that's also quite emotive language. So remember here, I'm using a lot of my thinking out loud, talking to myself about my ideas so that I don't just choose the first idea that comes to mind, but I really think about it and edit them before I write my notes down. This is why it's really great to box up and plan before, because you can always delete things or cross things out and put new things in. So are you a farmer at the end of your tether? Are you, I like the word frustrated with, and I can always write that full sentence in my actual text. Okay, so I've got my rhetorical question to engage the reader and I've used emotive language. So press pause now to write some of your notes. Okay, the next part of our introduction is once we have used our rhetorical question to hook the reader in and get them thinking that yes, they are in need, we can now use an anecdote of a person in need. So if we think back to our model text, we started talking about George being in the same situation because he also had a horrible teacher. So in this case, we can also start talking about another customer who was in the same position as our farmer. So you can use any period of time for this. You could say last year or a few months ago or not too long ago. And you're going to think of a farmer character who was also in the same position. So for me, I'm going to go for, actually, let's go to this one. I'm going to go and write, I'm going to go for a mere means a few, mere few days ago, so that's how long it was for my last customer, and I'm going to call him Phil the farmer, alliteration, and I'm going to say he was in the same position. What's another way of saying same position? He was in the same boat. Phil was in the same boat as you. I'm going to write directly to the audience. I'm speaking to them. Okay. And when I'm writing, I can also talk a bit more in a bit more detail about what his problem actually was. I don't have to write everything in my box up, just a few pointers to help guide my writing. Okay, so now we are going to talk about our customer reaching their breaking point. So when George just had enough, this is where our farmer is also going to go to breaking point. So you might say that his breaking point was that the animals to begin with were little more than skin and bone. Maybe their family were at the point of starvation because they're farmers, they rely on their animals for food. So make a note now, and you can write a couple of things that were happening to your character, and then you can say that they finally reached their breaking point. Maybe they've had enough, maybe they couldn't take anymore, up to you. So as before, take a moment and you can write some notes down here. So I think I'm going to say Phil had more than he could take. So you can now also write a little few notes there about your person reaching the end of the line. They've just had enough. So press pause and press play when you are ready to go on to the next section, which is going to be our shared write. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is switch over my camera so you can have a look at how I would go about writing this. Okie doke. So you can see there I've got my WALT. My WALT there is to use rhetorical questions to engage an audience. That's what I'm really going to be concentrating on. I'm writing my introduction today. My introduction is going to have my rhetorical question, and I'm going to talk about the customer's problem. So this is the anecdote of a customer who was also in the same position as the farmers that we are going to be trying to talk to in our advert. And then we're going to talk about the customer being at breaking point. Really got to make sure I get that rhetorical question in, and I'm going to also remember to use lots of emotive language, and then I'm going to go back and edit my work. So rhetorical question. So I'm going to go back, have a look at my notes. I remember I said, are you a farmer at the end of your tether? Are you a farmer? Can you see that? Good. At the, join up your handwriting because I want to see lots of pen licenses when we come back. Are you a farmer at the end of your tether? Now remember, you write a sentence, edit the sentence. So what have I done here? I need to make sure I start with a, I can imagine lots of people are screaming at me about this, capital letter. You is spelled wrong. Are you a farmer at the end of your, again missing the O there, your tether? And it's a rhetorical question, so I need to make sure that I use a question mark. Good. Are you a farmer at the end of your tether? Are your animals, I'm going to use two rhetorical questions. Are your beloved? So I'm going to really tug on the heartstrings there, make it seem like all of our farmers are really good people with good hearts who just want the best for their animals. Are your beloved animals Are your beloved animals just not as... I could use the word big or tall, but that's not very powerful. What can I use instead? Large. Are your beloved animals just not as large as you would like? Oh, I wonder what contraction I could use here. Year 3, you would. What contraction would that be? Well done, it'd be you'd as you'd like. And again, another question, so I know now, need to end with a question mark. So have I used my rhetorical question? Yes, I have. I can tick that off. So now I can talk about my customer having a problem. So I'm going to start talking about my farmer Phil. Well, fear not, as a mere, so I can go back to my box up, I know that's what I wrote, as a mere few days ago, poor old Phil, capital Phil, I'm going to use Phil the farmer because farmer and in Phil is alliterations. I'm putting things in even when it's not the word. You can still put loads of features that you've learned. And I said he was going to be in the same boat, didn't I? Poor old Phil the farmer was in the same boat as you. I'm very sorry if you can hear the music in the next room. I think someone's having a music lesson. Was in the same boat as you. Okay, so now I need to talk about his problem. So I'm going to talk about his animals just not being big enough. So his animals provided no food. They lazed about without a care in the world. I'm just going to say it without a care. They lazed about without a care. Full stop. His animals provided no food. What sound is that? Double O. They lazed about without a care. I wonder if a comma is the right thing to use there. His animals provided no food. They lazed about without a care. I probably, because it's not really writing a list here, I probably would replace that with a conjunction. I think and probably would be the best conjunction here. So I've talked about the customer's problem. Now I'm going to talk about my customer being at breaking point. So this is when Phil has had more than he can take. Phil had, the two hads here, had more than he could, I think they say bear now actually instead of take. So remember, you can change your ideas. You don't have to, it's not set in stone. You could take. Okay, without a care, Phil had more, or shut the door, than he could take. Oh, I know could is a tricky one. Oh, you lucky, take. Maybe it's a C? No, that doesn't look right. E on the end. Okay. And now is when I have the fun bit. I can introduce my medicine. So this is where my imaginative juices are going to flow and I'm going to really have fun with my name for this medicine. So I'm going to say until he found ... Let's get some suspense in there, get our readers interested. Until he found farmyard friend. Okay, so that's going to be the name of my medicine. So let's have a read of what I've got here. Are you a farmer at the end of your tether? Are your beloved animals just not as large as you'd like? Well, fear not. As a mere few days ago, poor old Phil the farmer was in the same boat as you. His animals provided no food, and they lazed about without a care. Phil had more than he could take, until he found farmyard friend. Okay, so that's as much as we are going to do today. So remember, you are going to write the introduction, which is going to have a rhetorical question to hook the reader. You're going to discuss a problem that a previous customer had, and then you are going to say that your customer reached the end of their tether. This is all to get our audience hooked in thinking that this is going to also help them because they're in the same position. They've got the same problem. It's a farmer whose animals just are not doing what they should be. So I'm looking very forward to seeing your fantastic write-ups. Be as imaginative as you need to be because you've all done a fantastic job so far, and we look forward to seeing your great ideas soon. Bye.